Good morning again, and I'm supposed to pack in about 30 years of my experience with Russ Ackoff into 4 minutes. So you will excuse me, I have to read it. Even though I had the privilege of knowing Russ Ackoff for more than 30 years, first as a PhD student at the Wharton School and later as his colleague, every time that I'm asked to speak about him, I find it a daunting task. Ackoff used to say, when you have a choice, you have a problem. And this is the case with my assignment today. Russ was truly a multidimensional person with so many great attributes that one really doesn't know where to start. His professional accomplishment and brilliance are well known to all. Actually, all you have to do is to Google his name, and you will get hundreds of thousands of hits discussing his work and his contribution to management sciences. I think you know that he wrote 32 books and published about 400 papers. It is who he was as a person that I wish to share with you. When I think about Russ, I think about the many qualities that he had. He was magnanimous, ethical, hardworking, humorous, loyal, honest, and a true friend. His humility when talking about his work was striking. In the years that I worked with him, I never once heard him to say, I did this or that. He was famous for his stories, even though most of the stories were about the work that he had done for hundreds of organizations. He never once said that I did it. It was always we did it. He was truly generous with intellectual property and financial gains. He would name you as a co-author even though he was the one who really wrote the paper or the book. Most of the time, he would be the one who would get the consulting contracts. Nonetheless, he never questioned or challenged time or cost estimates from his co-workers. He would never be offended if others made more money in the project. Russ's contribution to the success of many American corporations are well known. Recently, at the Ackoff's memorial that was held at the Wharton School on February the 12th, by the way, you can see all the speeches on Ackoff Center weblog. They're all there. Jack Purnell, formerly a senior vice president with Anheuser-Busch Companies, talked about Ackoff and his relationship with AB. He recalled that he was an MBA student at the Wharton in 1965 when he first met Russ. This had coincided with August Busch III, who was the senior marketing vice president at the time, recruiting freshly minted MBAs from the top business schools. Ackoff recommended Jack, and he was fortunate that he was offered a job. He worked for the company for 35 years until his retirement in 2001 at the age of 60, financially very well off. He said that if you had invested $1 in S&P index fund in 1965, you would have had $10 in 2001. If you had invested in GE in the same year, by the way, Jack Welch was CEO at that time, you would have had $26, not bad. On the other hand, if you had invested $1 in Anheuser-Busch in 1965, you would have had $260 in 2001. That is 26 times better than S&P, 10 times more than GE. This remarkable achievement in large part was attributed to Ackoff's contribution to the company. In fact, August Busch III himself wrote a paper about the relationship of AB with Ackoff. One could imagine that Russ could have taken incredible financial advantage of his position as an insider with senior executives. But Russ had an uncompromised ethics. A few years ago, we were working with a mid-sized oil and gas company in the Midwest. When we started our assignment, the stock of the company was trading at $2.55. After 4 months, the stock price had risen to about $18. At the time, one of the executives of the company told me privately that we should buy company stocks. I told him he obviously doesn't know Ackoff, otherwise he wouldn't have even mentioned the stock purchase option. He was surprised and couldn't understand why we wouldn't take advantage of such a great opportunity. I told him that Ackoff's relationship with AB started in late 50s when the Gussie Bush and continued until August Bush III retired in 2006. I told him that AB's share of the beer market in this country grew from 8% to almost 52%. In all those years, Ackoff never held even one share of the company. In fact, all the people who worked with him knew that he thought that it is unethical to own shares in a company for which you are doing consulting. Another great strength of Russ's character was his loyalty to his friends. If you were fortunate enough to work with him, he would have a friend for life. Russ was always there for his friends and extended help to those who needed it. A couple of instances that stand out were his friendship with his longtime teacher, Tom Cowan. Russ supported him financially and morally until Tom passed away in his mid-90s. Another example was that of a young African-American community organizer by the name of Herman Rice. When Herman met Russ, he was a young gang leader living in the West Philadelphia neighborhood of Mantua. Russ encouraged Herman to join him in the development of his neighborhood, a revitalization project in the 70s. Herman went on to become an Ackoff collaborator for the remainder of his life. Herman's story was covered widely in the media, including an episode of 60 Minutes that showed Herman and his white hat collaborators working within deprived neighborhoods, getting rid of drug dealers. Over the 30-plus years that followed, Russ remained a financial supporter and an advisor to Herman. In recent years, even after Herman had passed away, Russ returned to Mantua community with new ideas and corporate sponsorship for neighborhood. I think Herman's son did give a presentation last year here. Ackoff used to say that traditionally, as a result of analytical thinking, human activity is divided into three categories: work, play, and learning. Being with Ackoff was truly an integration of work, play, and learning. When asked by someone as to why he worked so hard and that he should take time off and have fun, he would respond and saying that what I do is fun for me. Obviously, time permitting, I could go on talking about Russ for hours. I would like to finish my talk by touching on an aspect of his character that wasn't particularly obvious unless you knew him very well: his sense of humor. I'm going to finish with this. One story that I would like to share with you took place at the airport in Toronto, Canada. We were at the airport waiting for our plane to go to Philadelphia. As usual, Russ pulled out a book and started reading it. I snuck away to the duty-free shop. On my return, without looking up from his book, he said, which was his usual way of talking to me, "Where the hell were you?" I said, "Russ, I went to the duty-free shop and bought myself a men's cologne." He asked me, "How much did you pay for this thing?" I said, "I got a bargain for $46. The same cologne costs $56 in the U.S. He looked at me and said that, "You know, I never paid more than $2 for a cologne in my entire life." I wanted to tease him, so I said, "Russ, you have to smell nice in case you might have an opportunity to kiss a lady." This time, he turned around, looked at me, and said, "With a face like yours, you need all the help you can get." Thank you so much.